sometimes your idea of what you're doing on your snowboard and what you're actually doing on your snowboard are two completely different things. But luckily these days, all of us have a phone in our pockets and you can get your friend to film you. And from that footage, I'm going to show you how you can pick out bad habits within your riding. Now, I'm sure I'm going to get the comment from that one person who says they don't have a phone and they don't have any friends to film them. Well, Norman, I'm sorry, but this video ain't for you. Right, this first one is a big one. Actually, it's a very small movement, but it's something that I see people getting wrong all the time, and it's very easy to spot. And if you're doing it, it's going to have big consequences for your riding. So it's with regards to the transition from your heel to your toe side. And if you ever feel like you're having to hop the back foot around or counter rotate, or that the board just doesn't want to change from heel to toe side, then you've probably got this problem. You're probably not properly crossing your hips over the board at the edge change, rather you're dipping your shoulders across the board and leaving your hips behind. Now, it's dead easy to spot if you get someone to film you from behind, so I'm going to show you how we see it. In this example, you can see that my hips stay in the same position whilst my body hinges forward, right there at the waist. The edge change is slow, skidded, and my toe edge position is poor, with my weight being directed behind me rather than down over my toe edge where it should be. So let me explain to you why that edge change was so slow. If I properly cross my hips up and over the board, you can see the board rolls across a flat base and then tilts onto the toe side. That edge tilt there is created because my hips are pushed forward, they're stacked vertically over the toe edge, and that allows me to sink my weight down into the front of my boots and feel my shins pressing against the front of the boots. That acts as a lever which tilts the board onto its edge. By getting the board on its edge, it will start to grip in the snow and pull you around the arc of the turn. However, if you try to cross your weight over the board at the edge change, just by dipping in with your shoulders here and essentially having your hips as the pivot point, you can see I'm really getting my weight forward over the toe edge, but because my hips are back behind the board here, my weight is still pushing down over the heels, and no matter how much I really lean into it, the board itself is going to stay flat. And a flat board only wants to go in a straight line. It won't bring you around the arc of the turn. And if you're doing that, then you're probably going to find yourself doing one of these bad habits instead. Example one, you make a quick counter-rotational movement to hurry the board from the heel onto the toe side. It does make the edge change quick, but it always leads to skid in the top part of your turn. Two is using your calf muscles to actively lift your heels up off the snow. Now, in this example, I honestly didn't intend on falling over, but when you use your calf muscles and you tense up like that to try and encourage the board onto its toe edge, it puts you in such a weak position and it's really difficult to get the board to grip in the snow that you're just going to make life really difficult for yourself. So please don't do it. Now, I'm sure I will get someone who will tell me that yes, you should use your calf muscles. It's a muscle, therefore you should be using it. But trust me on this one, you don't want to do it. It's bad technique. And if you are that person, well, comment it down below and I'll explain all the multitude of reasons why you shouldn't be doing it down there. But now let's move on to the next reason. And that is this. As with the original example that I showed you, you might actually be making the edge change from the heel to the toe side, but if you're bending over at the waist and dipping in with the shoulders, the edge change will happen slowly, and by the time the board does come around, you're going to be in a weak position, not sending the weight down over the edge where we want it, but actually sending it back behind the board, meaning you're going to be struggling and fighting for grip. So you want to pass the hips over the board so they end up stacked vertically over the toe edge, sending the weight down over the toe edge where you want it so that you can achieve grip. So have a look at the footage of yourself and see, do your hips pass over the top of the board? It's only a small movement. They only need to move the 6 inches or so of the width of your board. But if they're not passing over the board, it's very easy to see. Have a look and see, do you have a pivot point right here at the hips? Are you just dipping in with the shoulders? If so, that's when you're going to see one of those bad habits or the lack of grip that I've just mentioned. Tip number 2 is to ensure that your upper body stays perpendicular to the angle of the board. Now, with the exception of maybe doing some butters, presses, or when you're absorbing a mogul one leg at a time, a pretty standard golden rule within snowboarding is to try and keep this upper body perpendicular to the angle of the board. It will ensure that your weight is in the correct place and evenly distributed between your feet. So, get a friend to stand on the piste and have them film you as you turn around them. Check for right angles at the top of the turn here, but also as the board points down the slope, and then at the end of the turn again here. Now, as I mentioned, this rule applies to any steepness of slope. If this is your board, this is your upper body. As the board tilts and points down the slope, your upper body tilts with it. Keep that right angle. Simple. So look for those right angles here and here, because if you don't get them, then you'll be leaning back and you will likely skid out the lower part of the turn, if not lose control completely. So grab a mate, get your phone out and get them to film you. It can be really useful to see yourself riding and you have no idea what you might spot. In fact, just the other day, I was messing around and using full positive binding angles, and on looking back at the footage, I saw loads of spray coming up from my toe edge. It turned out it was a simple fix. Because my back foot was turned in, the buckle on my toe strap kept digging in the snow and kicking up all that spray. So there's always something to learn. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you soon in the next one when hopefully we've had some more snow. It's been 5 weeks of blue skies like this, which whilst it's lovely for my goggle tan, I'm really craving a powder day. Anyway, I guess there's worse things going on in the world. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.